The year is 530 AD. A single Roman general stands at the head of just 25,000 men, staring across the desert at a Persian army nearly triple his size. The fate of the Eastern Roman Empire hangs in the balance. This isn't supposed to be possible. Rome's legions are a distant memory, replaced by hired barbarian mercenaries and undertrained recruits. The empire itself is a shadow of its former glory, clinging to life in the east while the west has crumbled into barbarian kingdoms. But this general, this brilliant tactician named Belisarius, is about to do the impossible. He's about to win. And this is just the beginning of a military career so extraordinary, so packed with impossible victories and dramatic reversals, that it reads more like fantasy than history. Welcome to the story of the last great Roman general. What's going on, everyone? And welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving deep into one of the most fascinating and criminally underrated figures in all of military history. We're talking about Flavius Belisarius, the man who almost single-handedly reconquered the Roman Empire at a time when everyone thought Rome was finished. This is a story of genius, loyalty, betrayal, and warfare on an epic scale. This is part one of our two-part series, where we're going to explore how one man's tactical brilliance turned the tide of history, how he crushed the Persians and obliterated the Vandals in campaigns that seemed impossible. In part two, we'll see how he toppled the Goths and came tantalizingly close to restoring Rome to its ancient glory, and how politics, jealousy, and imperial paranoia would ultimately undermine everything he achieved. If you're a fan of military history, if you love stories of underdogs defying impossible odds, or if you just want to know why historians still argue about this guy 15 centuries later, you're in the right place. So make sure you hit that like button. Subscribe if you haven't already, and let's get into it.to understand Belisarius. We need to understand the world he was born into. By the early 500 AD, the Roman Empire was unrecognizable from its glory days. The western half had completely collapsed. Rome itself was ruled by barbarian kings. The Vandals controlled North Africa. The Visigoths held Spain. The Franks were carving up Gaul. Italy had fallen to the Ostrogoths. The map of Europe had been completely redrawn, and classical civilization seemed to be drowning in what we now call the Dark Ages. But in the east, centered on Constantinople, a remnant of Rome survived. The Eastern Roman Empire, what historians would later call the Byzantine Empire, still controlled Greece, Anatolia, Syria, and Egypt. And in 527 AD, a man named Justinian became emperor with an audacious dream. He wanted to reconquer the West. He wanted to restore the Roman Empire to its former borders. He wanted to make Rome great again, if you will. And to do this, he needed a general. He needed someone brilliant, loyal, and capable of winning against overwhelming odds. He found that man in Belisarius. We don't know much about Belisarius's early life. He was probably born around 500 AD in Germania, which confusingly was a region in the Balkans, not Germany. He came from relatively modest origins, not from the old Roman aristocracy, but from the new military class that had risen in the empire's twilight years. What we do know is that he was tall, handsome, and possessed an almost supernatural talent for warfare. By his mid-20s, he had already caught the eye of Justinian, who was then serving as his uncle's chief military advisor. Justinian recognized something special in this young officer. He promoted him rapidly, and by 527, when Justinian became emperor, Belisarius was already one of his top generals. His first real test came almost immediately. The empire's eternal enemy, Sassanid Persia, was pushing into Roman territory along the eastern frontier. These weren't just raids. The Persians, under their Shah, Kavad I, were launching a full-scale invasion, threatening Syria and the wealthy eastern provinces. Justinian sent Belisarius east to stop them, and this is where we get our first glimpse of his tactical genius. At the Battle of Dara in 530, Belisarius faced that massive Persian army I mentioned at the beginning. He had 25,000 troops. The Persians had somewhere between 40,000 and 60,000. By every conventional measure, he should have lost. But Belisarius didn't fight conventionally. He chose his battlefield carefully, positioning his army with a river protecting one flank and the walls of the fortress city of Dara protecting the other. Then he did something brilliant. He dug a series of trenches in front of his position, not continuous ones, but broken into sections, creating killing zones where his cavalry could retreat and then counterattack. He positioned his best troops, heavy cavalry cataphracts modeled on the Persian style, on the flanks. Then he waited. The Persians attacked in waves, confident in their numbers. But Belisarius had turned the battlefield into a death trap. Persian cavalry would charge, get funneled into the trenches, and find themselves surrounded by Roman horsemen hitting them from multiple angles. Persian infantry couldn't effectively support their cavalry because of how Belisarius had shaped the terrain. After a brutal day of fighting, the Persian army broke. They retreated in disorder, having suffered massive casualties. Belisarius had won a stunning victory against superior numbers through pure tactical brilliance. Rome hadn't seen a victory like this in generations. But Belisarius wasn't perfect. Following year, at the Battle of Callinicum, he suffered his first and one of his only defeats. Caught in a disadvantageous position during the Easter holiday, he was pressured by his officers into accepting battle when he wanted to withdraw. The result was a costly stalemate that forced a Roman retreat. It was a valuable lesson in the dangers of being overruled by subordinates, and Belisarius would never make that mistake again. Despite this setback, he had proven himself as Rome's best general, and Justinian had bigger plans for him than just fighting Persians. In 533, AD Justinian decided to launch his campaign of reconquest, and he chose the perfect target for a first strike: the Vandal kingdom in North Africa. Now, the Vandals deserve their own video, but here's what you need to know. They were a Germanic tribe that had crossed into North Africa a century earlier, seized Carthage and the wealthy provinces of what is now Tunisia and Libya, and established a powerful kingdom. They had a formidable navy and had spent decades raiding the Mediterranean, even sacking Rome itself in 455 AD. They seemed untouchable, but in 533, they had a weakness. Their king, Hilderic, who had been friendly with Constantinople, had been overthrown by his cousin Gelimer. This gave Justinian a pretext for war. He was going to restore the legitimate king. More importantly, he was going to reclaim Rome's wealthiest lost provinces. Everyone thought he was insane. His advisors warned him that invading Africa was suicide. An earlier attempt in 468 had ended in catastrophic failure, with hundreds of Roman ships destroyed by Vandal fire ships. The Vandals controlled the sea. They had a powerful army. The distances were enormous, but Justinian had faith in Belisarius. He gave him a fleet of 500 transport ships and 92 warships, carrying about 15,000 soldiers, and sent him to conquer an entire kingdom. The odds seemed impossible. But Belisarius had a plan. He landed not at the heavily defended port of Carthage, but at a distant beach where the Vandals weren't expecting him. He secured his beachhead, fortified his position, and began a methodical advance. The Vandals, under King Gelimer, rushed to meet him. The two armies clashed at the Battle of Ad Decimum, about 10 miles south of Carthage. And here we see Belisarius's tactical flexibility. The battle descended into chaos, with fighting breaking out at multiple points. A lesser general would have lost control. But Belisarius kept his nerve, coordinated his scattered forces, and exploited every mistake the Vandals made. When Gelimer had the advantage at one point and could have crushed the Roman center, he instead stopped to mourn his dead brother, giving Belisarius time to rally his troops and counterattack. The Vandals broke and fled. Carthage, one of the greatest cities in the ancient world, fell to Belisarius without a siege. He had accomplished in weeks what should have taken years. But Gelimer wasn't finished. He retreated into the interior, gathered reinforcements, including troops from Sardinia, and returned with a new army. The two forces met again at the Battle of Tricamarum in December 533. Gelimer had positioned his army well, with his cavalry formed up to charge. The initial Vandal assault actually pushed back the Roman vanguard. Things looked dicey, but Belisarius personally led a cavalry charge into the heart of the Vandal formation. The fighting was brutal and close quarters, exactly the kind of engagement where leadership and morale matter most. And when Gelimer's brother, who was commanding a critical section of the line, was killed, the Vandal army's resolve crumbled. They broke and scattered. Gelimer fled into the mountains, where he held out for months before finally surrendering. The Vandal kingdom, which had ruled North Africa for over a century, had been completely destroyed in less than a year. Belisarius returned to Constantinople in triumph, bringing Gelimer and the treasures of Carthage with him. He was granted a triumph, the first full Roman triumph in centuries, where he paraded through the streets with his captives and spoils. He was at the peak of his fame. The people loved him. Justinian showered him with honors. But this would also plant the seeds of something dangerous: imperial suspicion. Before Belisarius could rest, crisis struck at home. In 532, Constantinople had nearly been destroyed by the Nika riots, a massive uprising that had left much of the city in flames and had almost driven Justinian from the throne. The emperor was traumatized and paranoid, seeing threats everywhere. And a general as popular and successful as Belisarius was exactly the kind of man who could threaten an emperor. But Justinian needed him, because the next phase of reconquest was about to begin: Italy. That's where we'll pick up in part 2, as Belisarius takes on his greatest challenge yet: the conquest of Italy and the wars against the Goths that would define his legacy. We'll see incredible sieges, impossible victories, and the slow unraveling of everything he fought for. So what do you think so far? Are you impressed by Belisarius's victories against the Persians and Vandals? Let me know in the comments what you think of this incredible general. And make sure you're subscribed with notifications on so you don't miss part 2, where things get even more dramatic. If you enjoyed this video, smash that like button. It really helps the channel. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in part 2.